What's up, everybody? Today's been a big day. There's been a lot of different news and things popping up here and there. I think we're going to start with a great little AMA that AsaTJ has done. He's a amazing patch notes dude that's been hanging out on Reddit forever. It looks like he's going to have a preview on IGN too, which I'll try and throw a link up. It'll be a card probably in this area, if I had to guess. I don't really know how YouTube cards work, but yeah, we're going to go over his AMA here. We're just going to talk about the main points that we have. And there's a lot of them. There's about a full page here. So, I mean, the first thing that we're going to talk about is a little bit of characters. They're going to have their own, not individual, I guess kind of like family ambitions, I think, is what it sounds like. Maybe they'll have individual ambitions as well. But these ambitions are something that you have to either try to help them do, or if you don't help them, they're going to not like it. And this is basically going to influence their loyalty, which is, I mean, a little self-explanatory, but it's kind of muddy. We're not entirely sure, but basically helping out characters is going to increase their loyalty. Another thing we've learned about characters is that they're going to have 4 main stats. They're going to have Martial, Charisma, Finesse, and Zeal. These stats are going to affect their ability and mana generation when they're ruling. If you ask me, it's going to make sense that, you know, Martial's going to be your military power. It's probably going to help them be a good general. Charisma would be, you know, your diplomatic power and probably allow them to do interesting things as a senator or maybe a governor or something like that. Finesse, I would assume, is going to be some sort of administrative thing. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out in a character perspective and like what they can actually do in the world for you. And then Zeal is religion, and I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. The next thing we have about characters is there's going to be a prominence system, and this is, again, working with that whole family unit that I was talking about earlier, where basically they're going to have more influence, and when they have more influence, it's going to be harder to, say, prevent that kid that, you know, you had an amazing general that had an amazing campaign. You can't really just push his kid off to the side. You're going to have to actually do something with that kid and at least pacify him. This basically means that you're going to have families that can make or break your country. There are going to be serious repercussions to who you allow to get powerful. It sounds like you're not going to be able to have, you know, a pure meritocracy or anything like that, but we're going to have to see. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of testing and people are going to figure out ways to break it, but ideally what should happen is that you're just going to have to deal with some people. There's going to be those snot-nosed kids that just want to get their way, and you're just going to have to find a way to push them off to the side, but, you know, keep them happy. Another thing on families is they're going to have friends and or rival modifiers that are going to affect relations with those friends and or rivals. Pretty easy, pretty simple. Units in an army can also become loyal to a character, which is going to, you know, work into that rebellion system. Depending on how many troops are loyal to a character and their loyalty to, I'm assuming, your ruler or maybe something else. I'm not entirely sure how this is all working out. There isn't a ton of detail. But assuming that they either have, you know, a ton of troops and are like moderately disloyal, or maybe they don't have a huge amount of troops, but they got enough to get by and they're like really, really unloyal, then you're going to start seeing rebellions and things like that. Civil wars was a phrase thrown around, so maybe there's going to be events like civil wars as well. And yeah, you can kind of expect something like that. There is also a little more information about portraits and how there will be a DNA string that's going to pass down through children, and, you know, it's going to allow for more natural looking family lineages. This is something kind of similar to how they tried to work out CK2, but CK2, I mean, come on, that's an old game. It looks a little funky these days. So hopefully that's going to work out a little bit better. The portraits are going to be rendered in full 3D, and there is a wonderful video that I, again, will show you up here. You can go check that video out. It is in German, unfortunately. If you can't speak German like me, it doesn't really help. The auto-generated translation is kind of garbage, but you can at least go check out the images and stuff like that. I think that is on Steinwallen's channel. So yeah, again, I'm going to try and put a card or something up here, so if you want to see that, go ahead and check it out. Moving on from characters, we're going to talk a little bit more about administration, let's say. It sounds like countries are only going to be ruled by a single entity for gameplay reasons. It's unfortunate and not what I would have liked, but, you know, we're going to get what we get. Civics are said to be slottable bonuses, kind of similar to the way that policies are being reworked in EU4, so that'll be an interesting system to see. Republics are going to use a Senate system that passes laws, and there's probably going to be some element of character management in there. Again, having, you know, a powerful family with a snot-nosed kid could ruin your ability to pass some sort of super important law that you want to get done or something like that. So, again, the character system sounds awesome. A couple minor things are going to be that elections should exist in Rome, which would make sense, but there's no real details on that, and there aren't any current plans for aqueducts, which would have been cool, but it's not a huge deal. Moving on from that, we're going to talk a little bit about colonization. It looks like most of the white provinces on the map will be colonizable. Some cities will be traversable, but not colonizable, like the interior of Arabia, for instance, but where those places are going to be exactly, we don't know yet. I would assume that for the most part, unless it's a horrible desert like in Arabia, or, you know, the frozen wastes of the north or something like that, you'll probably be able to colonize it. But yeah, there are going to be some cities that will not be able to be colonized. But for sure, the yellow areas of the map on the very edges are just, you know, unreachable lands. From what I've been reading, it sounds like large parts of Iberia, Germania, Pannonia, and the British Isles. I think it's Pannonia? I'm not sure. They'll remain unowned and colonizable, so even though I was kind of hoping, you know, Iberia, a large, very important Mediterranean area, would be more colonized, it sounds like there's going to be pretty big portions that you'll be able to actually colonize yourself. Some more mechanics on colonization are that there will be a civilization level for each area, and that's basically going to indicate how difficult it's going to be to colonize the land. Colonization requires moving pops from your lands and, you know, spending a little bit of mana here and there. This will also increase the civilization level of that area, improving its own output. So you're kind of trying to boost the economy of that area by throwing people and power at it. And then once it reaches a break-even point, you're kind of good, and then it'll give you returns. So if you're trying to colonize a wasteland, it's going to be extremely difficult and expensive. Whereas if you find, you know, a place on your borders that's more or less been colonized, you know, it's got quite a bit of civilization or something there, it's not going to be so hard. This is going to prevent, you know, rampant colonization just throughout the entire world, which I like. One last little thing for colonization is that pops are going to be units of 100 people. It's a minor thing, but, you know, it's good to know. Moving on to trade and resources, we're hearing that resources are not really going to be stocked in any meaningful way. They'll give bonuses to a province receiving them, but you're not going to be able to stash away some acorns for later. When a province produces more goods than it consumes, it sounds like it's going to be able to redirect that surplus to another area. There seems to be a diplomatic trade system, kind of similar to how you would work in Stellaris, where you can, you know, trade one resource for another, gold for food or whatever. A little bit more info on trade resources is there are a few uses for them, like triems are going to require wood to be produced, wood's going to increase naval queue times in general, grain's going to help pop growth, wine's going to increase happiness, iron will let you trade heavy infantry, and there's many more, but as a TJ didn't really write them all down, or if he did, maybe he's saving them for his article. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about military here. There's an icon on the unit card that we've been speculating about that has actually been confirmed as a reorganization mode. Well, semi-confirmed. I mean, this is all third hand. People are saying is it's going to increase recovery rate at the reduction of movement speed and a bit of an increased upkeep. Makes sense. If you want to get people back into your armies, they're going to have to slow down and you're going to have to pay people. Barbarians are going to have a special little CB that will be to bring home slaves and money, which leads into the fact that there's going to be a CB system for wars, but it's also been said that there's going to be the possibility to declare no CB wars, probably at some sort of aggressive expansion expense. Next up, we got a little bit about religion and tech. Religion is not going to be a huge focus for the game, but it sounds like it will be a part of stability management and somehow will involve calling down omens. That exact phrase, calling down omens. Inventions sounds like a resource for the tech system, and it's generated by citizen pops really well, but maybe other pops will generate it as well. I mean, if you can't make citizens, like if you're a tribe or something like that, then there's got to be some way to increase your tech. I'm assuming inventions is that little Pythagorean theorem icon that we've been seeing on the province cards. Flavor-wise, the Mediterranean will be the focus of the base game. Probably DLC will flesh out other areas similar to other Paradox games. And that's about it for the AMA that AsaTJ put on. It's great, and I love it. There's a ton of information here. If you want to check it out, you can check it out. It's pretty easy to find. Just go to the Imperator subreddit, and it should be pretty close to the top. Moving on, as I mentioned before, Steinwallen put out a pretty great video that not only shows the characters, you can see it towards the end here, but in the beginning he shows the demo where they zoomed in on the map. It looks pretty great. I like it. Some people have been complaining about it looking a little too much like Civ, but I think I like it for the time period and all that. Like, it seems nice to me. Either way, if you want to check that stuff out, I highly recommend you do, and I'm going to put another link up here. Another video that I saw that was great is Johan got interviewed by Uncle Ted, and I, again, highly recommend that you check it out. He goes over all kinds of things. I'm not going to say it word for word, but Johan talks about how long he's been working on the project, what it's like to piece together a map of tribes and nations from a time where there really aren't that many records. He says how he won't really change the start date, but there's flexibility in the end date. There's... oh yeah, where he was drawing his inspiration from, like specifically saying Victoria for population and stuff like that. He also has a bit of a mention about how important composition of troops and tactics will be in battle. Mentions a bit about research, confirms naval combat, stuff like that. Check out the video, it's really great. And the last thing that I kind of want to go over, but I kind of don't want to, but we'll talk about it. It'll be good to see what you guys think. Johan's been quoted as saying, "It's a game about painting the map in your color," which... I mean, kind of all Paradox games are. But people seem to be kind of upset about that. They see it as a disheartening thing. Really, like, I don't get this line of reasoning. All Paradox games have been like this. Even, you know, narrative-focused ones like CK2. At the base of the game, it's, you know, increasing your empire, making yourself bigger. But that doesn't mean that there aren't amazing things that come out of the games as well. Neat stories about how you broke out of a PU that you accidentally fell into, or how you somehow prevented a coalition from tearing your nation apart and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it's really just people getting really worried, but Paradox games have their own narrative that I think as long as you're trying to find something, as long as you're looking and paying attention to the game, like, you can have a ton of fun and have really cool stories that come out of just about every Paradox game. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm right. If you guys have cool stories that you want to talk about, I'd love to hear them. If you think that I'm wrong and want to tell me how Paradox games are just for robots, sure, I'll entertain you. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. There's a lot of great stuff out there, and you guys should go check it out. And I think that's about it.